All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about something I've been talking about now for like 5 or 6 years and doing it in real time for a few real people out there, just like you and just like me. All right, so since the Eric Clapton video debuted here a week ago, it's been a week since I did that interview with Eric. I'm getting the question, as I've been getting it over and over again for a number of years. Why are the comments off? Why are they off? Well, for a complete, detailed answer, you'd have to go over to Patreon, sign up for $1 a month. Now, if that's extortion or whatever, you think that's unfair, look, this channel at some point needs to be self-sustaining. In other words, I don't want to worry about YouTube. I mean, I may just go over to Rumble. I've got Odyssey. In case people didn't know, all of these videos go over to Odyssey, but that's, like this weird crypto thing that I don't understand. So I'm not going to be earning, extra revenue. Like the YouTube model, when I first got here, was actually pretty good. You could do a video and get a couple thousand views and you would do fairly good. You'd make a few bucks, and then you have more videos out there and you make a few bucks off of those, and then it snowballs. I have something like 3,000 videos on the internet right now. Just crazy, okay? And people are complaining, hey, you don't have comments. I wanted to, drop a comment about Eric Clapton or whatever, or send Eric a message, which is funny because Eric isn't going to be reading comments on YouTube videos. He's not going to be doing that. He's a guy who doesn't even watch the news media because he doesn't trust the news media. He's a private person. And again, like yours truly, one thing he and I have in common is we like our downtime, we like our privacy, and we're not going to be slaves to negativity. And so I've talked about why the comments are off in detail in the past. I don't know if those videos are still out there. I'm assuming that they are. And I've basically explained this. And all I can tell, you guys, is that it got to a point where it was a security issue for me and my family. And people don't believe that. They think I'm making it up or whatever. I should have saved the police report. I really should have. I should have gotten the report. People came, and the sheriff came, and a deputy came, and they were looking at my computer, and they said, it's good that you called. That's what they said. It's good that you called. And the deputy said, and this was in the early days, and she said, is there any way that you can disable this? Now, I didn't know that much about YouTube. I just thought that's what you do. You put out a video and people go crazy, and it's all about them and it's not about you anymore. Seriously, this is what the world is really turned into. Look at my pizza that I just made. I'm going to take a picture of it. I'm guilty. I did that a couple of times on Facebook. I'm never on Facebook anymore, by the way. So anybody trying to get under the door through Facebook, like the cracks, this is what I say. Oh, look, one got in under the door. They don't want to pay the $1 a month. So they're gonna send me Facebook messages all day. And I'm just like, I don't read them. I'm not over there. My family, someone in my family sends me a message over there, I will read it. I might look at it, but I may not respond to it. Of course, now with Facebook, they know if you've looked at the message, and that's going to tick them off even more. He looked at it, but he didn't reply to me. He's seen my angriness. It's like, oh man. So it's a combination of things. It's the fact that there was a real credible security issue. I'm sure people know what doxing is. It's not hard to do these days. It's very easy. But it's a little unnerving when it happens at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And by the way, say I left the comments on and just ignored them, which ticks a lot of people off. Like, he's got the comments on, but he never responds to anything that we say. Then you've got other people who might be, nice people who are on Patreon who reach out to you, or maybe on Facebook. There are all kinds of security things that you have to do with Facebook in order to tamp down on, again, people going under the door basically trying to get in. But those nice people will say, hey, there's this guy on Facebook or on your comments that said all of this nasty stuff about you, called you all these names, you're a fraud, you're this, you're that. He says he knows you from, high school or something. I don't know anybody from high school anymore, really. I don't have one person that I talked to from high school, but they may know me from that or college or whatever. And then they'll say, and they say this about you then, and you did all these things and da-da-da. And it's like, okay, thanks for giving the 40-year-old update on my life. That's just terrific. And then just some people that, I don't want to say that they're jealous, because there's nothing to be jealous about here. I'm just some dude that has been fortunate in some ways with a Clapton interview, because I was the only one on the internet defending Eric Clapton, which is really strange. And I still can't fathom that that's actually true, but it is true. So it's like anything in life. You're going to gravitate toward the people, hey, this person must like me. Or even if they don't like me, they're not hostile to me. That's better than everybody else, literally everyone else who is going after me. This one guy isn't. So he's better than those people over here. And I've explained that a few times. It's weird that the media doesn't say to themselves, maybe we should apologize for what we did. He probably won't accept your apology at this stage because you're a fraud, because you would have done that months ago. But maybe you should say, look, I'd like to be on better terms with, the greatest living guitarist on the planet. That would be a good thing overall, even if you're doing it as a grift. I may not agree with him, but I better, start talking in a more positive way about this guy. And he is entitled to his opinion. Of course, he's wrong, but if you approach it like that, it's going nowhere. It's going nowhere. I think at this stage of my life, I want to freely associate. I want to freely associate with people who are like-minded. And if you think I'm censoring you because I disagree with you, that might be true. And I'm a dictator here. This is not a democracy. Okay. It's my channel. So I decide how I want it to be done. It's like same thing with a private business, right? Private business might want to only do business with certain types of people. We're seeing that more and more these days, where if you don't toe the line on certain things, they don't want to deal with you. There are people who've had their bank account suspended because they don't think the right way, right? So I'm just doing my own version of that. I'm not saying I'm trying to be like them, but in this circumstance where something affected me and my family in a way which is hard to ignore, and it's hard to recover from that moment and say, yes, I'm going to trust again. I'm going to trust more after that event. Why would you do such a thing? You would try to protect yourself and the people you care about. And that's what I did. All right. Now, I don't need to go into more detail, but if you want to know more, then you can join Patreon for $1 a month. And I have conversations literally all day long. And I could go into the social media aspect of things and say, it's so time consuming. Even if I was gung ho, and some people just welcome this, oh, I can't wait to respond to people who are commenting on all my videos. I can't wait to interact with those people. Typically what a YouTuber will do is they'll answer a few of the initial comments on a video, or respond or or thank or whatever but then they go away, because it's impossible. It's impossible to hang out and do that kind of thing all day long unless they have surrogates. And there are, the larger channels, they're going to assign a job to Bob over here, and Bob's going to be in charge of answering the comments. I don't have a Bob, okay? It's just me. So it's going to be, hey, if you're going to comment, then I'm going to have to be answering all these comments. And if I just ignore them, then again, I'm going to have someone telling me about them. And then I'm going to be like, oh, crap. What did they say? And if I don't respond to it, they're going to think that I don't care that this person said this. And I've said to people, you know what, I have to just let this roll off my back. But I'm not really good at that. All right. I've admitted that. I'm not good. People say you have a thin skin. Yes, correct. 100%. But my skin got a lot thinner after this incident. And now I just don't trust. I have a very low level of trust for most of humanity. And I trust people who say, you know what, it's worth giving this guy $1 a month. Number one, it supports the channel. And he wants to be more independent. He wants to be able to keep being this voice in the wilderness, pushing against, this encroaching narrative, which is destroying the culture, destroying the music industry, destroying the world for that matter. Okay. That's great, fun stuff. But hey, I have this, want to call it a calling, because I could just be the guy talking about bass guitar players. I could be the guy who wants to highlight a certain type of music and just focus on that. And there are people in that lane and they do it really well. I've decided to change lanes, despite all the people telling me to, stay in that lane. And that's what gets me in trouble, because I can't just talk about the music aspect of it. I relate it to a cultural thing that's going on. I mean, look at Oliver Anthony right now. Talk about an intersection of culture and music. If you're just talking about, boy, Oliver Anthony has a great voice. He does. But if you're ignoring what he's singing about, you're missing the entire point. You really are. I mean, yes, he probably wouldn't be as interesting if he was, singing these songs and he didn't have a great singing voice or the way he delivers the song. All right. But getting back to the comments themselves, go on to any somewhat controversial place where they allow this to, this interaction, and the toxicity level is just off the charts. And then you've got bot accounts that you have to worry about. I didn't know anything about this a number of years ago. I had no idea. Now you've got AI that can run a program and say, oh, they're all wanting to get, if you block them from getting under the door, it's very frustrating. They'll find other ways to get in. I just had a breach on my PayPal account. And I suspect it was somebody that I have had some interactions with. I can't prove that, but the timing of it is very suspicious. And it was a big deal. It was a big deal. I think I got it resolved, but they picked it up right away over at PayPal. And yeah, this is fraud, and these people scammed you. And so that's another thing. I mean, I don't trust, and I'm not changing because somebody wants to say something nice about my interview with Eric Clapton. That's awesome. Again, there are a few people that have joined Patreon and said, yeah, that was a great interview. This is what I liked about it. This is what I wish you had asked him, or, and I'm like, well, it was just Eric and I having a conversation. I know a lot of people don't understand that, so I'm going to explain it again. I don't do this thing where I'm like, okay, Eric, back in 1969, you were thinking about, leaving this band or going into this band or whatever, and again, if I use the wrong year, people are going to say, well, no, Eric was, he was with this band and you messed that up, and you immediately get hammered for not remembering every detail. Because people, they can just go to Wikipedia, they can Google stuff, and they can say, dude, and I'm just speaking off the cuff, stream of consciousness. This is what I do. And then people just hammer you for not having all your I's dotted, your T's crossed. They want to come at you. And this isn't going to be my life. I'm just saying it that way. This is not going to be my life. My life has to be more than answering messages all day and feedback and, gee, how come you're doing this? I mean, I've answered it enough. I've really answered this enough. And I say to people, if you want the full story, I'll give you the full story over on Patreon. I really will. And anyone who's on Patreon, if you want to know and you've just been curious as to why I just turned it off, ask the question. It's I guess I'm just frustrated and tired because I do this interview and it seems to go pretty well, but people are still complaining. They're still complaining because they can't put their exclamation point on it. They can't do something themselves. I mean, it's not going to make the interview any better if there are thousands of comments on it. It's not going to make it better. I don't think Eric would appreciate that either, quite frankly, because he's a private guy. He's been railroaded and he's been made fun of. And he's also, things have been said about him that aren't true. And he sits there and he just is bewildered by it. And it's frustrating because, again, he's a peacemaker. He's a nice man. He's not there to make enemies, but he made all these enemies because he had an opinion about something. And this is why he doesn't watch the news media. And this is why he pushes back against all of it. And quite honestly, I don't blame him. This is kind of why I think we're two people that are actually talking to one another at this stage. It's surreal, and I keep saying it's surreal, but in some ways, and I hope people don't take this the wrong way, it kind of makes sense because I'm kind of a contrarian and he's kind of a contrarian. I'm a bit of an oddball. I'm not saying he's an oddball, but he definitely, marches to the beat of his own drum, right? Or guitar. But the point I'm trying to make here is that, sometimes birds of a feather flock together. Am I saying I'm talented? No, I'm not talented. Eric Clapton, he's talented. I'm just some guy that talks, and he and I have some kind of a connection, which it's a cool thing when it happens in life. When you find a friend, yeah, and I would consider him a friend, and that's mind-boggling to some people as well. It's like, why this guy? What? Seriously? How come not some real rock journalist that works at a magazine? I think you could answer that question. Why? Because it's not going to be about the friendship. It's going to be about, one-upsmanship. In fact, Eric mentions that in the video where he talks about, people having to be the greatest and the greatest this and the greatest that. It's like an Olympic sport rather than just admiring the greatness of it, and everybody has to categorize and rate it and rank it. So anyway, I've gone off on a tangent here. If you want the full explanation as to why the comments will remain off, and by the way, on my other channel, I am allowing comments on my other channel. However, I'm screening every comment, which is very tedious. And people don't like that either, because you know why? Because they know. Because if you're going to go off and write a 10-page, thesis on the video, I'm probably not going to allow that. Number one, keep your comments pithy, succinct. The other thing I would probably be aware of is if it's super negative or if it's against me, I'm just going to be like, yeah, this is why I'm screening the comments. I don't know how long I'm going to do that for. I don't know. It will probably wind up, if it gets too crazy and too out of hand like this did, I'm going to be like, I don't need this. I don't need this. And I'll leave that feature on, but I won't do any screening. It's too time consuming. And I don't have surrogates, all right? And no, I don't have the money to hire somebody to do that. All right. This is why I continue to tell people to go to Patreon, because YouTube is suppressing the content. Once the video dies down, the Eric Clapton video, and it's, I think, at like 175,000 or something like that, which for me is a miracle to have that many views on a video. Once that dies down, it's going to go back and it's going to be clamped down harder. I can feel it because I know how many views that video has. And then all the 3,000, imagine 3,000 plus videos out there. And those videos are getting like 1 or 2 views a day or something like that. That's just pathetic, and it doesn't make sense. I'm hoping that maybe the algorithm got shaken up a little bit by the Clapton video, the interview, and things will get a little bit better. But we shall see, folks. I've answered the question. I'll answer it in more detail over on Patreon. It's worth signing up. It supports the channel. Eric Clapton says he might be back, and he's got more to talk about at some point. Won't be tomorrow, won't be right away, but it will be hopefully sometime in the not too distant future. So you definitely want to subscribe, at least subscribe to the channel, and get the notifications, because you never know. You never know who I'm going to be talking with next. All right, people. God bless everybody, and I will talk to you soon.